Yes, unfortunately, there's no sound, Nidra.
Nidra.
There's no sound?
You
Wow!
forgot to unmute, you scrub!
I forgot to unmute. Yes. This
Scrub,
this
scrub!
this will be cut out from the original. Anyways, I was saying that this is the Innervated episode number 10. It's June 22nd. Um, I'm joined here today by my three co-hosts. We'll discuss a lot of cool stuff. Sorry for the unmuting thing. Apparently, it's important to have sound when you're recording podcast. This is something new I just found out. Uh, well, what can you do? What can you do? Anyways, again, we'll be discussing a lot of cool topics today. But first, to introduce you my guests, as usual, we have the Chiv, tuning in from sunny United States, or is it sunny?
Oh no, it's sunny as all hell. We're breaking like heat temperatures here. But global warming doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. Um, I also have two of my dear Ghost Gamers colleagues joining me today. First, we have Stefan, aka Sumadin. You probably know him as the guy who writes these, extensive articles on Hearthstone mechanics and Hearthstone fundamentals. Writes a lot of good opinionated articles. You should really check them out. And I'm
Hey,
bringing him here to discuss some, Hearthstone mechanics specifically for the main topic. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. It's rainy actually for the summer. That's
Trade you.
Uh,
Okay, and finally we have Christian, aka Sir Christian. So you probably know him from, such big events like ESL Katowice, where he landed top 8. He also did some casting during DreamHack Summer. Generally nice fellow, the aspiring Hearthstone pro player with, the babiest of faces ever.
I know, he just looks too sweet to be a pro player.
Yeah, it's like between Sir Christian and Zizo, in the middle is where most pro players stand.
And then there's life coach.
Thank you.
And
Thank
then,
you,
then there's
Nidra.
left guy. Yeah. How are you doing today, Christian?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Everybody's doing just pretty good. Like nothing spectacular. You don't have any.
We're not breaking any temperature records in Iceland. We're about
Probably not. You're not.
about
It's only the word ice is in the damn country's name for a reason.
the weather's pretty normal though. It's just warm.
What?
So
Yay, Gulfstream.
Like I've
Yeah.
I've never been to Iceland, which is I think most normal people say, because it's not like probably the biggest tourist destination in the world. But
Okay,
like
I'll give you one reason to go to Iceland. They have a pirate party, a political party based on piracy.
Yeah.
They have that in Sweden as well.
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah, but Sweden.
It originated in
you
Sweden,
guys got
I
the
think.
most weirdest social political politics I don't even want to deal with.
Okay, let's start with
Okay.
something that's totally not Hearthstone. Christian, tell me about Iceland. Like 5 sentences about Iceland that I need to know about the country.
it's very beautiful. There's a lot of mountains, forests, that sort of thing. There's nice food. It's cold most of the time in winter. It's never bright. In summer, it's never dark. And
Oh, you're one of those countries then.
yeah,
Like,
pretty much.
when I ask people about Iceland, they just say Bjork as the first thing that comes to their like Bjork.
Wow.
That's all I know about Iceland. Anyways, I'm terrible at geography.
That's.
Yeah,
I mean, there's more to Iceland, I'm sure.
probably there's more to Iceland than.
That's just off the top of my head.
Well, fair enough.
I do know they have a very distinct and unique language.
Oh yes, hello.
Like I've heard Icelandic like a few times in my life, and normally I'm good at identifying
Does
a
it-
language when I hear other people speak it. But then when I hear that, I'm like, Klingon?
Does it sound like Finnish maybe, or is it completely different? Because I
Finnish sounds more like Dutch than Icelandic.
really, because
Yeah, I think so.
Because I used to live in the Netherlands, and it sounds like nothing like Finnish. But anyways, like let's not turn this into linguistic discussion or geographical discussion. Maybe we'll do another podcast just when we talk about our countries and corruption, and I can talk about a lot of corruption. So
Are you kidding me?
Maybe-
I could do like 4 podcasts on my country on corruption.
Yeah, but your country is
You could
shit.
do just a whole
Well,
podcast about
I'm
that.
Dane, so I will skip out on that.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get on to some actual Hearthstone talk. As usual,
Yeah, good plan.
we're starting with the news roundup of the week, and it was a pretty quiet week. Nothing much happened, but one of the biggest news that happened during the week was that Firebot and Strifecrow was selected to represent Team North America in the upcoming 100K NA versus China team event. So now we reported the tournament, pretty early. I think in last month or something was when the first reports happened, and now this is going to be another one of those events where China takes on the Western world in attempts to actually win a tournament. They kind of I probably think they already count Iller Celestials win a DreamHack somewhere as their biggest achievement, but you know that China versus the West has been an ongoing rivalry. It's one of the rivalries I really enjoyed the most in Hearthstone personally, and now they're trying to diversify it up. Like it's not going to be an individual tournament like China versus Europe. It's instead going to be a team event where teams of 5 players will compete against each other. So the Chinese team was picked through some pretty grueling qualifiers. Like they had a steep selection of players for the qualifiers. They chose the best Golden Series players. They chose the top 100 ladder players, and they chose the top 20 Gauss ranking players from our rankings to attend the qualifiers. And the Team NA, Strifecrow and Firebot were also picked based on their Gauss rankings as number 1 and number 2. And the other 3 players will come from the organizers, from the qualifiers that ESL will organize. So, again, the tournament going to ESL. I didn't approve of their method during the China versus Europe, but I feel like ESL have really grown into, finding the correct way to run Hearthstone events, especially now. ESL Legendary Series was probably one of the best produced events I've seen so far. The entire circuit season
Hands
2.
down.
Hands down, absolutely. Like Milkcast is doing wonders. I mean, yeah, huge pros. But it's not surprised that these 2 guys made it in. Like when we were talking to Blizzard channel, like because when they told me they want to use our rankings, I told them that first we need to fix some issues, because they weren't really representative of the power levels of the players. And like at one point we had Maverick at number 1 and Hoy at number 2. Cause it was a shit period in our rankings, but I told them wait, like we need to make some changes, and then the real number 1 and number 2 will come out. And these 2 came out as top 2, which is no surprising to anybody. But my question is, like, here's the thing, like, if I tell you to name the top 2 players in Europe, you will have way more difficult time to name them, right? You'll probably take Life Coach. No, Kulento. No, maybe Sviz.
I mean, you were actually pretty accurate on those 2, I think.
Like Kulento and Life Coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure, but I still feel that Europe scene has much more depth than the NA scene, because what I feel is like Firebot and Strifecrow are on the top. Then there's like a huge gap. Then there's maybe like Dog. And then there's like everybody else that hasn't won anything.
There's also like 50 times more events in Europe than there are in the NA that get any kind of broadcasting. I mean, seriously, when it comes to esports in the NA, yeah, there's a lot of great esports player in the NA, but when it comes to events here, few and far between. I mean, oh wow, we get BlizzCon and
a bunch of Europeans flying over for BlizzCon.
BlizzCon, exactly. We don't really get much here. However, I do know for a fact that is going to be changing. There's a lot of sponsors coming into the mix, more unconventional sponsors, and ones that, players will recognize that are actually wanting to kind of break this open a little bit. And they're talking to certain opinion leaders and things of that nature. And we might actually see some more events coming to the NA region, more specifically Canada. But I can't say anything else about that right now. I can leak that much.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I definitely feel that NA should get more tournaments, because you cannot really live off of online tournaments anymore. Like in the dawn of Hearthstone, they did have a very active online scene with the NESL, with Zotac NA, but the scene is changing. The online tournaments are no longer the yardstick by which players are measured. You need offline events to draw importance. Right now, it's only DSL Legendary Series going to NA. Nobody else is doing it. Like all the big circuits are in Europe, like DreamHack, like Assembly, coming now.
So they got MLG at X Games. When are we going to get Hearthstone at the MLG X Games events? That's what I want to see.
I think there's a Hearthstone event at PAX this week as
Really?
well.
That makes sense. Like Hearthstone was
PAX
out at
is
PAX
PAX Prime, right?
original.
No, I think the Onog qualifiers have the offline finals
Right,
there.
right.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the Gecko slash Ono qualifiers.
Yeah, that partnership.
Yeah.
I don't know when it is, but I remember reading about it.
Yeah.
But we need more events in the NA, and every time I say this to any of the EU players, and I said this like back in 2013 and 2014, I always got the same thing. Well, it's easier for European players to go to European events getting into the United States because of all your paranoia since post 9/11, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, fuck you.
This is your
That's all
argument
I
for
ever
keep-
get. It's that's my general like. If I don't really want to engage with somebody because their argument is completely founded on stupidity, my exact response 9 times out of 10 is going to be fuck you. The problem is they actually do have a point of reference here because how many players got not allowed to actually come to the United States for the BlizzCon? There was like what 2 Filipino players. If I remember correctly, RDU couldn't come.
No, he was. It wasn't because of the United States. It was just because he was banned from. Like Romania was not allowed to participate in the BlizzCon run
Right.
at all.
Yeah,
Like
Right. So, I mean,
Romania,
there-
Greece, Portugal, a lot of
Iceland.
Iceland
as well.
too. Iceland too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Iceland gets shafted. Wow.
I mean, actually, not this year.
Oh really? They changed that?
Romania and Iceland are let in this year. They updated their policies, so
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, something about 1,000 angry Romanians yelling on a forum didn't really
Hey,
help.
they have a real-
two angry Icelanders.
Is there such thing as an angry Icelander? Because all of them I've met have been very nice.
They're just slightly unfriendly,
Cold.
cold shoulder style.
Oh god, yeah, slightly friendly. That's as far as you guys go then.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's nothing
All
like
right.
nothing like the Balkans or the United States then. So where we go mental on you with guns and shit. Anyways,
See, Chivs yelled more on this podcast than I've done all week.
Are you kidding me? That's
Yeah.
nothing. Give me 5 more minutes. Wait till we get to the main body of the topic.
yeah, we are getting there. But before that, another news. Intel, in cooperation with Team Dignitas, held the One Deck Derby
Yes.
tournament called, and now the One Deck tournaments have been tried. Before, like Chi of you were involved in those back in the Mana Grand days, but those weren't really broadcasted to the wide public.
There was only so much we could do.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we
know.
did do multicast streaming, but the problem was without the spectator mode, which we begged for, pleaded for forever, and finally got it. But by that point, Managar was like,
But anyways, did you guys see this? Like in the end, Kranich won with Shaman.
Kranich,
Yes.
very, very solid player.
yeah.
He
He
is
was
a
a BlizzCon
fucking.
semifinalist, right?
Yes. Yes, that's the guy.
Chronic, I feel like he called this very well, that Shaman would be the best deck with a sideboard, to be honest. Because it's so flexible.
You
Yeah.
could go aggro, you could go control, you could go mid range very nicely.
And you need
I
very.
mean, just the fact that in control matchups, Shaman struggles sometimes if you add cards against aggro and then the other way around. So being able to change that is so huge because the deck's strengths come out so well that way.
Right.
uh,
But I mean, like the other side of that spectrum is you also got Warlock, which also has that same strength.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Because
who,
back
who
in the
played
day, during,
Warlock? Was RDO who played Warlock?
I believe so. Yes.
Oh.
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, not me either. I just heard him.
Am I like the only one who does his research?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched most of it, and I was actually really surprised that Shaman was brought as a class because I expected people to go for the power decks. But after that, you think about it, and as you say, Christian, like when you add the power to sideboard, some classes become way stronger than they are because Shaman really needs just very little to become tuned to beat certain decks. Like you can take the cards that suck against aggro out and put in some more control cards in it. Like you can build it from mid range to burst Shaman in very few cards. So
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Being able to
three.
sideboard I can think of about 15 cards, 15 to 20 cards that I'd want to put in a shaman sideboard and just take in and out, depending on the metagame I was predicting.
Yeah, but I honestly think like a 15 card sideboard is way too much for Hearthstone.
Oh, of course.
It was
Coming,
only
I mean,
10.
yeah, it was
Let's,
10.
I'll
Yeah.
just I'll just open um the deck list, and we'll just go over the Kranich's shaman now.
Oh, Strifecrow had Warlock, Ardu had Warrior,
Okay.
and Frozen Ice had Hunter.
Yeah, yeah. So Kranich basically
sense.
played a basic mid-range shaman with with Death Rattle, like Nerubian Eggs, Haunted Creepers, whatnot. All the usual stuff: Dark Iron Dwarves, Defenders, and so on. And for sideboard, he had Double Crackle, Reincarnate, Ooze, Kazan Mystic, Doomhammer. Yeah, one Doomhammer to complete the none in the build. Harrison Jones, Torrison, Black Knight, and Kel'Thuzad. So he was actually going not for burst, but for more Death Rattle oriented sideboard. You can.
I like the TBK in that.
Yeah, you could board into the value plan.
Yeah. It's actually really nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, we actually did sideboard tournaments with MLG, and we had that, and it was an unlimited sideboard, which led to some, oh my god, moments like, okay, I'm gonna play Zoo. No, I'm gonna play Handlock. Right? Or I'm
Yeah.
gonna go Agrimage. No, I'm gonna go Freeze Mage. It was like that one or the other, which was,
Was
I
this
mean, that kind of flexibility was just.
was this free? Was this pre Blizzard and Frost Nova nerf?
Yeah.
No, I think
Actually.
I think you had tournaments before and after that as well.
Yeah, we did.
Because the nerf came in, if I'm not mistaken, December 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and the Mana Grind was alive for much longer after. I'm not much live, but until
Oh
April
no,
or something.
we were around for a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, I'm really surprised by the two Crackle. Double Crackle is usually main board, but
Not a Marian Shaman though. It's kind
No.
of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looking at Strifecrow's Warlock, he actually brought Sacrificial Pact, man. Like
He was
uh,
expecting for it to face up against another Warlock,
Yeah,
or
it's-
he just wanted to heal.
no.
I mean, it's not bad.
I mean,
No,
it kills.
it's not.
It kills Jaraxxus, it kills Mal'Ganis, right? So.
Yep. I mean, Mal'Ganis is kind of a nightmare scenario in many cases. Like, if you don't have a Siphon Soul, if you don't have the Big Game Hunter, if you don't have something you can instantly get away with from that, then he's going to get free draw with no penalty. All of his board state at that point is probably going to be demons anyway, so you're probably going to be in a world of shit.
I mean,
So-
killing 9-drop for 0 mana is absurd
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's-
I'm okay with it. I mean, the only other class that has anything similar is Druid.
Hunter.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
with,
Hunter's
uh,
3. Oh, that's
Hunter's-
right.
No,
But you
it's-
still, but you still have to have something else to interact with it.
Yeah, I know. Hunter's a real problem producing 1 damage.
Yeah, that's,
Well, 1 damage that isn't to the face.
Yeah, I mean, just any token or anything.
anyways, yeah, it was a really great tournament. The guys think that there should be more of these events in the future. I know, like players like Brian Kibler have been advocating this since he came in Hearthstone. Like he came and said, I want the tournaments. We need to have them. Stefan, yeah.
I can understand that because it's a more traditional format, so it's one that traditional TCG players would know about.
Mhm.
This whole idea that you can separate cards into so many different classes, and those classes are absolute. That's kind of something that's unique to Hearthstone. So
Yeah, I mean, you look at Magic the Gathering, you got multicolored decks, you got all this kind of integration that you could easily do. You can't do that in Hearthstone. I mean, I'd love to, but you know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to take Flamewaker for Mage, put it in Shaman, and go, YOLO, and it's going to just be a nightmare. But
See,
it
sorry?
is pretty much the MTG crowd really wants to have the same experience from MTG here in Hearthstone. But that's the thing. You start making this game too much like MTG, then what's the point?
Yeah.
There has to be some
It's-
differential.
I mean, to
it's
be
a pretty
honest,
standard format. It's also the case in Yu-Gi-Oh, so it's it can be expanded to basically any CCG.
True, but they really want to promote all their heroes, and in those ones, there's certain archetypes. It basically comes down like 6 main and like 3 alternate ones that do very very well. Where here you've got like 9 that are almost. I kind of hesitate on Priest that are competitive across the board with multiple
I mean-
formats within them.
I'd be fine. I don't care about sideboards or anything like that. I'd just be fine with more formats. You have Last Tier Standing, you have Conquest. I'd love to see a one deck format. I'd love to see some. The Mana Grind used to host the limited tournaments or somewhat budget
Yep.
ones. I remember that.
That
So
was
Yep,
where you
pretty
could
that was
play
my
legendaries
creation.
or epics.
Yep, that was
I'd
my
love. I'd love to see older tournaments where you could or tournaments. Me and Alex were actually talking about it yesterday. I'd love to see tournaments with only older cards, no expansions, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
like
just want to
vanilla
see different
tournaments.
formats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
just play. Everyone's
Only
playing
core
Chill and
set.
Deity again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But all the cards have been nerfed. What's the point?
it's just fun, you know. I just like to see different.
But you
Player
cannot.
gets value.
You
Player
cannot-
gets value.
You cannot play Med Scientist, so then Hunter's dead as well.
No. You
Hunter
just play
goes to
Arcane
control.
Shot.
Hunter
Yeah.
goes to control. It is
Yeah, this
possible
is-
in that sort of setup.
Speaking of control, did you see the new mid-range versions of Shaman that has of Shaman? I mean, Hunter that has Death Lords in it.
Yes.
That
That-
has. Oh yeah, I played
Like,
that this week.
yeah, Gara played this now, like today in the Vulcan League that's happening right now, and I saw this deck like I can't remember when, and where like, huh, that's
I
nice.
saw- I saw it first on Tides' stream.
Oh,
He was playing it. Some guy got rank 1 legend with it. I forget the name. I apologize, but someone got rank 1 legend with it, and then Gara must have picked it up.
yeah.
Then again, if you actually follow a lot of like the pro players on their Twitter, like they're all bouncing back and forth between rank 1 legend, and they posted up, "Haha, I beat you!" "No, haha, I beat you!" And it's like this pissing contest on Twitter. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So like pretty much any deck is getting up to rank 1 legend these days.
I mean, with the Deathlord Hunter, what I like about it is that it shows the strengths of Deathlord. You want to play Deathlord when you're being proactive. That's why it's such a bad card in all the fatigue and
Yeah.
control decks. If it just gets hit for 2 every turn and you hide a bunch of stuff behind it, it's crazy good.
Oh,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Back to the one deck question for a while. Do you guys think that the 10 card sideboard is enough? Because if you actually make the mathematics, it might be too much, especially when comparing what MTG uses. Like they use 15 for
60 card.
for
deck.
60 card, but 20 of those will be lands. So 10.
Yeah.
23 and
it's-
more control oriented, but
Yeah.
yeah.
In Yu-Gi-Oh, it's 15 with 40 cards, so
Yeah,
it
similar.
is the normal rate.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
but I think for like Hearthstone, I guess 10. Originally, when I was doing the whole 60 basis, I was kind of going, you can kind of get away with 8 and still maintain that average. But then I really started thinking about is it would it be 8 individual cards or 8 total cards? Because you could have 2 of cards and this, that, and the other, and then that offered more expandability in that. But I think 10 just all around, long as it's like total amount of cards. Like,
Yep.
two true silver champions, guess what? That's 2 cards.
Yeah, of course.
I actually think 7 is the correct number because legendaries in this game. I think odd numbers are fine, and legendaries are going to be a pretty big part of the sideboard. So
I mean, yeah. If you look at a lot of the tech cards, they are legendaries. You have TPK,
Yeah.
you have Harrison. They're all. They're all.
there's
tech
also
cards,
just a ton of tech cards you don't want 2 of. So there's
Yeah,
that.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, like, mind control tech.
Yeah, it is a literal tech card even.
Exactly.
Anyways, moving on with the news. I mean, it was a quiet week, but we still have to go through it. Starladder Hearthstone began this week. No, not this week. Last week, of course. Starladder is a tournament organizer that's known for their involvement with Dota and CS:GO, and now they're making a step into Hearthstone. They're doing a 16-man league that will be running for about a month. And they're streaming every 2 days a week. So this week's games are on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe. But last week we had the first 2 groups complete. Kolento and Strifecrawl kind of crushed Group A, leaving Stansif and Kalags out. In Group B, actually Lostov, one of the Russian underdogs who came from the CIS qualifier, he destroyed FaZe and left Zizo and Nairi out of the tournament. Orange came in second, so these are the first 4 players through to the playoffs. We'll have more competition this week. Group C has Amas, Life Coach, Gara, and Board Control. Absolutely stacked group. It's unbelievable. And Group D has Farba, Tyson, Elforce, and Renman. Renman is another Russian player who came from the CIS qualifier. But not sure how much you guys saw from Stellar. Not really much to say. It's the first they had some hiccups, but I think that they fixed it up. It's shaping up as a really good tournament, interesting to watch. Has a the usual mix of big names, small names. They actually couldn't quite get the license from Blizzard in time, so this is why they have 9,900 prize pool instead of 10k. So apparently, if you want to go beyond 10k, Blizzard needs to tell you, okay, we are fine with it. They couldn't get it in time because they told me that it takes like 20 days or something, and they really want to start
it does. And then you got to wait for them to actually respond. So you really should plan on like 6 weeks.
Yeah. But anyways,
just because corporate,
which isn't ideal. Which is not ideal when you're trying to set up a league and on short
not.
notice.
No, definitely not.
But I'm going to set the star ladder here. I mean, you look at like Group A, you look at Group B, you look at Group C, you look at Group D. You've got 3 show ponies in every single group, and then this one little guy, and that's got to be pretty impressive. And my hat's off to the Russian in Group B. All right.
Oh yeah, Lostov, man. Like Lostov is actually on Hellraisers now. Hellraisers is a team that is a multi-gaming organization. Now they pick up Lostov as their first player and only player so far. But now this guy, as you said, going against the Goliaths, like, hey.
Oh my God! I mean, you take any one of these groups. You take any one of these groups and you put it in any other tournament with group stages, and you're gonna go, that's the murder group right there. Yep. That's gonna be the hardest group right there. And here you've got 4 of them for one tournament.
It's fantastic. This is why I love Starlar. They really stuck these groups.
Oh my God, this is literally a slugfest of giants.
Yeah. But we'll see. Like maybe Lost of wins, maybe the Boar Control or Redman, the other qualifiers. Maybe they do something nice. We'll see this week, I guess. I'm
rooting for Board Control. I like his name.
Yeah. Seriously, if he's playing Tempo Rogue, I'm all in. With a name like Board Control, please.
Stone to Spore, Cold Blood costs 0 mana if you played Tharsan the turn before.
I know.
Yeah. Mind blow. Isn't this something that Firebot actually played once in Rogue? Like once.
That's the joke, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to our first main topic of the night. We had Tavern Brawl was released last week. I presume we all played it. I played a few games. We did a small piece on the Tavern Brawl. Actually, not a really small piece. We kind of discussed it in depth. Last show, you guys should check it out. But now that the first week of Brawl is behind us, I promise not to say Team Brawl all the time. Now that this is behind us, what are your guys' impressions of it? Stefan, let's start with you.
I think it was okay for a start. Like, it's obviously very familiar because we've just played the adventure. We know the characters, so it's not a problem even if you don't exactly know the lore of Warcraft. So yeah, and it's also good relation to the individual cards that was used in the adventure and how we got to use the cards again from Ragnaros. So I like it.
All right, Christian.
I loved it. It was really, really great. I just really enjoy because it's kind of new. It felt really fresh and it just felt fun. I played it on stream. I went up against a guy and a friend of mine, and it was just throwing crazy spells back and forth, getting crazy spells off Nefarian's hero power. It's so much fun.
Fucking 0 mana.
Yeah, get lay on hands for 0 mana, something like that.
Casual. If you have Chromagus, it becomes.
See, my theory for the reason Nefarian starts with 30 armor is because if you get lay on hands in the early game, you can't lay on hands yourself for value.
You can still camera. You'll just draw 3 cards for 0 mana.
Yeah, I know.
Like you said, like, it's not a
Still
good
more
bargain.
than Battle Rage.
Oh God, yeah, Jesus.
Well, Battle Rage is fine. You just have to make you can play around it by making sure your opponent doesn't play Grim Patron.
Yeah, it's like if he doesn't play Grim Patron, it's incredibly balanced card. Chiv,
it's like Frothing Berserker being completely fine when Warsong Commander doesn't give it charge.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep. Chip, what are your impressions from the brawl?
Uh, okay, I had a lot of hopes and anticipations for the brawl, and the brawl actually met a lot of them. There were a lot of things here that I noticed and I like nitpicked and I pointed out, took notes on. You'll notice that the battle was between a obvious control deck and a ramped up aggro deck.
Yep.
It was kind of a mid-range deck, though.
It was like Zoo combined with Tempo Mage.
You know, you start with 5 mana, and I was able to achieve victory by turn 7 by drawing
Exactly.
it can get quite ridiculous, but yeah.
It was pretty much like Zoo and Tempo Mage had a lost love child and put on a dragon face. And that was Nefarian right there. Then you get to Ragnaros, which was very reminiscent of like a handlock style of deck. All right, it was very slow, but once it got to that nice little point, boom, 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 boom. Here comes my power. What are you gonna do? You have no hard removal.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like I'm trying to, race you, where Nefarian was racing. It was all about racing. So, I mean, that's two of the main archetypes that you generally see on the ladder, which, yes, the only two archetypes we see on the ladder. But, yeah, okay, it's what people know. It'll be comfortable for them. Now they've gotten this introductory out. What's next? And I'm already hearing some of the people who are behind, like some of the deck construction choices. They're making tweets on Twitter about it, saying, "Hey, I'm glad you guys liked the first brawl. I can't wait for you to see what's coming up next." So I'm hoping we're going to see a little bit more. All right, I really want to see more. I want to see some mid-range upside. I want to see more combo play stuff. I want to see synergies that don't exist in this game. I want to see a tribe synergy that does not exist in this game yet. Like, I don't want to see, like,
You mean
Murlocs. I want to...
dragons?
No. Fuck dragons. I'm talking about something we don't see, like... I'm sorry. Blizzard already just made dragons the most ungodly piece of shit creation they ever did. I'm sorry. Dragon Consort does not make up for anything.
No, Blackwing Corruptor is the best dragon card, actually.
But what I want to see is we already got pirates. Now, what's the gamer geek thing when it comes to pirates? What do we want to see pirates face off against? I want to
Fucking
see
ninjas. Yeah.
I want to see pirates versus ninjas. And better yet, we could also do something with zombies. Why not? We got Naxxramas already out there. We could create a few more zombies or use some of the stuff off that. What can ninjas fight up against?
Unicorns.
Really? You went the My Little Pony route?
Yeah, dude.
No,
you
put
get
zombies up against plants.
Yeah. It's
Plants. Okay, there you go. Or better yet, dinosaurs. Because dinosaurs are big right now for some odd reason. Jurassic World Park, Primal, But I mean, come on, they definitely love having this versus this sort of motif. Goblins versus gnomes, dragons versus elemental.
Just do dinosaurs versus Chris Pratt.
What would be Chris Pratt's deck like? He makes moves all the time, like it's different moves. Like,
I mean, his character in Jurassic World is a hunter, technically. He captures beasts and tames them. So he'd just be face hunter.
So face hunter against dinosaurs. That's
yeah.
Like
He's turned into Huffer at will.
I've never seen this before ever. Face hunter.
I mean, Rexar just turns into Chris Pratt. That's the difference.
So you get an alternative hero portrait. That's Chris Pratt. That's
he does 3 damage.
It's 3 damage.
Oh God, no.
Because 15 to 10.
All the emotes must be from Parks and Recreation. Basically, that's I will buy it for however money they charge for it.
Don't give them ideas.
Why not? Like this show is about giving stupid ideas to people. Like Chris,
that's what my show was about.
And this is what every show is about. Like all the good shows are about stupid ideas. But actually, when they released the brawl, the guys in our crew chat was playing it first. I hopped on Reddit, way before I could play it myself, and everybody was saying, "Oh, Nefarian is so imbalanced. Oh, this is stupidly strong." And I queue for my first 3 games, and I get Nefarian, and they say, "Okay, this is easy." And then Ragnaros demolishes me. Like, okay, these guys, what's happening to me? Am I stupid? Probably I am stupid. I just got demolished by Ragnaros 3 times in a row, and then I just started winning, and then I was winning by turn 7. Like I literally started, dropped my entire hand, dropped the card that gave +3 attack or something, and then run Ragnaros down, and the guy was probably feeling stupid.
The Rexar is weak in this one.
I mean, to be honest, they were very hyperbolic. Everyone
They
about it.
were.
Oh,
So
yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, that's the internet. They're just everyone just says the strongest version of their opinion. They lose to Nefarian because they lose one game to a nut draw from Nefarian. They're like, oh, Nefarian's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Actually,
You ignore the 5 games you won with Ragnaros, you know.
You know, it's funny. Knox actually won 100 games with that, and he recorded like all of his wins, losses, which each won, and he actually showed how often he got to play Nefarian, and it was an ungodly amount. And yeah, he won statistically a little bit more with Nefarian than he did Ragnaros, but he was still winning more. Winning like above 50% with Rag as well. So I mean, they were balanced. I
100
can't say
wins
one
is
was.
dedication. To his-
Yeah, seriously, because after seeing that big 2020 so many damn times, you're just like, I'm done. I don't want to see this.
I mean, to be honest, with Ragnaros, I think the reason people, especially Reddit, which is more casual, the Hearthstone Reddit subreddit, Ragnaros is less obvious, if you understand my meaning. Like,
Yeah.
you don't immediately get, I have to use this weapon, I have to hit the face, I have to run it down as fast as possible. But as Nefarian, you're like, ooh, here's a 4-mana 7/7, and it's turn 1, and you just play it, and then you just hit Ragnaros with it. So I think that's part of the reason why Ragnaros may have been pitched as the weaker one. He's just he's more subtle, I think.
He is much more subtle. I mean, you got to play counterintuitive. Like, you would never face tank a 7/7, right?
No, but you have
never
to.
do that.
It's
but
really
you actually
good.
have to. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, I get this taken care of. That way I can just spam this and remove whatever else he's going to. Okay, yeah, I'll do that all day long. But yeah, you actually have to take the moves that generally, as we've played Hearthstone for so long, in your mind you're going, no, this is wrong. You actually have to break your mindset, and when you get done playing that and go back to the ladder, you got to re-put that back together. It's so strange.
I think that's actually, I'm not sure. It's very cool when you think about it, but it's still kind of a design flaw compared to how Tavern Brawl is meant to be. Because Tavern Brawl is very casual, and making a system where, making a class which is very non-obvious and very subtle isn't exactly what they want to do, I think. I might be wrong about this, but
It's a different type of puzzle solver if you really want to think about it.
yeah.
I mean, Hearthstone in its own right is basically a puzzle solving. How to defeat my opponent based on each individual round of board states. Okay? So then you go to Tavern Brawl, which is, by the way, we're going to take the general rules that you learned from this set of puzzle solving and change it completely around. So have fun with that.
I want to mention, I actually probably enjoyed it more because I didn't have any expectations.
That's the way to go about life in general.
Yes,
Don't
it
have-
is.
don't have- Actually, yeah. Back to the brawl thematics. Ringosu from our Twitch chat says that they should have a challenge called Dinosaurs versus Christians. So I don't know if
Oh
they
my God.
probably they don't mean like the army of Sir Christians, but generally the religious group.
Oh wow, that'd be fun. Your legendary's Jesus Christ.
I am
Back resurrects all of them that died.
I am on the verge of making a joke, but then I will start fearing for my life and about religious groups and whatnot. Let's
I live in the southeast of the United States,
Yeah, but
man. I make any comment about Christians, I'm going to be lynched.
yeah, but you
They're
own
waiting outside.
You're not too far off.
you
Yeah,
own,
yeah.
you own guns. You own guns, so it's okay.
That's besides the point. There's
don't-
laws against shooting Christians in this
Yeah.
country.
Speaking of brawls, we will probably do something. Try to do something really cool. It will be the Tavern Brawl Open tournament that we are discussing internally and trying to make it work. I will see what the next challenge is, and the goal for us is to have weekly competitions in the Tavern Brawl, just completely casual. New players can come in, compete just for no stakes. We'll again try to put something on the line to have some incentive, and we'll start small. We'll start with you, maybe then merge to move to NA. But for you guys who enjoy Tavern Brawling, we'll have a tournament for you probably as soon as this week. So just a small teaser. We, again, still trying to flesh things out. Talking to Blizzard and whatnot. See where this leads us. But
Yet again, another EU only event.
come on, I said we want to move to NA. Like the only thing I need is an admin that wants to help me, like in during NA times, because this is a tournament that will need very little adminning, because it's
Yeah,
fun. Like
I already have a price point that I have to before I'll do anything for those.
I mean, I actually really hope this week, if we're gonna have a brawl tournament, will be a deck building week.
Oh,
it could
yeah,
be more
yeah.
interesting.
yeah, definitely. I mean,
yes.
again, we also have ideas to cast this. Maybe talk to the winners, just give it more exposure. Because I personally did not enjoy Brawl that much, but this goes back to my point from last week. Like I am a player that needs to be incentivized. Like I will not play anything just for the sake of playing. I know that a lot of my friends tell me that this is ruining the idea of gaming. But I'm just like that kind of player. There needs to be a reward for me. I've
Yeah,
always
I
been like
agree.
this.
It's a
Uh,
risk reward thing. It's pretty much typical of all humans. All right.
Yeah,
They want to know the time they invest is going to be rewarded.
because
I mean, that's. I grew up playing RPGs, so that
Yeah.
mindset is very much
Mhm.
rewarded in
Yep.
that way.
yeah. I was same as I was. I was both the hardcore RPGs like Baldur's Gate and Diablos, etc. But I was because I was playing Brawl and I'm thinking myself, okay, this is so much fun. And it would be, the endless amount of fun if there were rewards about it. Like, I would grind this shit to no end. Like, really, but, you win, and your win doesn't matter except, increasing the count of your wins. It's not the incentive I'm looking for. And, I've mentioned this in the past episode. If any of the Blizzard guys are listening to this, guys, give us some incentive. It will help everybody.
What about a brawl ladder and or specific rewards only
Yes,
for brawl?
yes,
i.e.
something-
dust.
yeah,
You know, because let's get a second ladder going here, the casual ladder. All right, the brawl
Different
ladder. We could actually
format.
have. Yeah, we could have tournaments for that shit too. This is a much more creative thing than the same goddamn net deck we've seen for the
You know
past
what?
4 months.
We should actually code Brawl Ladder for tournaments on Ghost Gamers. That would be sick. Like you
There
can
you
see
go.
the world ranking for brawlers.
Can we
I'll
do
I'll
that?
take 2% of your ad revenue off that one page. Thank you.
Here, when we meet face to face, I will give you your $5.
Ouch.
Anyways, moving on to enough brawling until next week, or rather this week. It's this Wednesday, right? It's this
Yes.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Which sucks because I'm gonna be anesthetized for a bit.
Okay. My girlfriend is in the chat and she's talking about stuff. Anyways, moving on to the main topic, of the podcast. And this week we're talking about mechanics. Now, choosing this topic, there weren't any big events, so we're going back to our old in-depth discussion, of fundamentals. I was, this idea came to me just today. I was talking to Stefan here, about, articles we want to write about mechanics in Hearthstone. And we will probably still go on to write these articles, but just as, the main topic of the podcast is going to be, how card games are designed and how they evolve with time, how new content is brought into the game. And, Hearthstone is a game that will very likely go on for years and years and years. It doesn't, really come out as a game that will die in next year or something. So, as card games evolve, new mechanics, like new ways to play the game, are introduced. Games like Yu-Gi-Oh!, games like Magic the Gathering have grown tremendously in the way they revitalize the playstyle. For example, like I don't know how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. Stefan can give us more information, but with Magic the Gathering, basically every set has a new mechanic. This is something like they either invent a new mechanic or revisit an old mechanic or change an old mechanic and tune it, and this is something that really keeps the game alive, and this is something that will keep Hearthstone alive, in my opinion. So again, we will just be talking about this for the rest of the podcast, and let's start with before we move to mechanics that Hearthstone likes, because obviously there are a lot of those not still in the game, but let's start with the mechanics that are in the game, and shooting you guys this first question: what of the mechanics currently in Hearthstone do you think hit the mark and that work and that are perfect for the game's gameplay? Starting with you, Chief, just this time
Well,
around.
now that Undertaker has been reduced to obscurity, Death Rattle is probably a very strong mechanic that incentivizes board states, trading, and gives you value along the way. This way, you can have kind of crappy statted minions, but you're still getting an effect out of it. Because previous to this, I mean, you really look back, there was a time when everybody used Novice Engineer because it was Battlecry, you instantly got it. But the stats were 1-2. It could survive, so you could possibly buff it up on the next turn. Then they nerfed that. So that went out of favor. So then Loot Hoarder suddenly became the ideal replacement. But you could silence this now, and Earthshock gained value in that. So Death Rattle has definitely got a great mechanic. It's because of Death Rattle that Sludge Belcher is arguably one of the best taunts in the game, especially in the mid-range department.
If not just
Um,
the best.
Well,
yeah.
the best on, yeah.
Right,
I don't know,
it's the most
Tyrion.
commonly used. Yeah, Tyrion would be, except for he's the main reason why people carry at least one silence. Um,
Sylvanas.
Yeah.
yeah, that too,
Carry
I
on,
guess.
But yeah,
Anyways,
move on.
moving on. So, I mean, Death Rattle, definitely a great mechanic, and I really like that. I am liking some of the, when you play a spell mechanic, when you do this mechanic, such and such happens. We're only seeing that with damage now. Even when something gets healed, deal damage. I'd like to see something else. We do have when a minion is healed, draw a card, but I'd like to see more interactions that are based off other things other than damage. And I know I'm sounding kind of like social justice warrior there in the whole damage and violence aspect, but no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just wanting a little bit more creative diversity within the gameplay meta, because you go back to like Magic the Gathering, and I'm always going to harp on this because that's where I got my origins from. There were a lot of designs where you were using like enchantments that had a recurring aura effect, and you could lock down board states just with simple squirrels,
Yeah.
and that was fun. Or you could
Not
make
for
a
the
10,000
opponent.
point, or because of some really, really, really clever playing and deck design, you could do a 10,000 point burst damage with a rocket launcher. Yeah, rocket launcher. We're going way far back, guys. There was a lot of things like
I
that.
have no idea what that is.
Well, that's because when that came out, you were still in Pampers. I should tell you how old Magic is, Jesus. But
I know.
But I mean, there's a lot more mechanics that I'd love to see in there, and we'll talk about that in the next point. But I'm going to be quiet now, let everybody else get their 2 cents in.
Okay, Christian, what about, yeah, same question, mechanics
So
that you like?
in Hearthstone, there's things I don't like, which is just every card that's played in popular decks heavily incentivizes a snowballing style of gameplay. In Death Rattle incentivizes this. You get your haunted creepers, whatever, on the battlefield after you play your 1-drop, and your opponent gets punished for killing it or punished for dealing with it without playing their own power plays of their own. The perfect example of this is the mech class, because if you played against Mech Mage and you have an axe or something, and let's say they don't have a Noitron or something to deal with it, they play their 1-drop, you play your axe, you kill it, and then they draw, and you and play another mini, you kill it with your axe, and then they play their Tinkertown as a 3/3 on turn 3, and it just looks embarrassing. But on the other side of the spectrum, if you don't have an answer, they just run over you. And one of the main reasons for this is the density of low mana, of low cost good minions compared to the density of cheap answers, which there are very few of. And that's one of the main problems right now, and that's why the snowballing style is so popular.
Yeah, especially because when you're talking about Death Rattle, immediately comes to mind Earthshock, but this is a shaman spell. Not everybody can use it. In fact, all spells are class specific. So even though Earthshock is so effective against Death Rattle, it really punishes you because you can play it easily on Corvus, just 1 mana. It basically punishes haunted creepers, and it was used to crush undertakers and loot hoarders, whatnot.
Let's not forget Leper Gnome.
Fuck Lebrog now, like 2 damage. But again, you have a point here. Like Death Rattle is, a mechanic that's, you cannot really deal with it effectively because essentially you're at a disadvantage when you kill a minion.
You are because it does, and I do like Death Rattle because it gives you options. All right, I mean, originally, like some of the best minions that you could play before they came out with GVG was like Harvest Golem. This was a pretty much universally used card throughout many deck
Yeah,
designs.
it was the
Why
three
was it
drop.
there? It was the 3 drop. Why was it there? Because when it died, it still persisted. That persistence is what gave it the value because that effect right there is like, okay, they're going to invest in this, but then they got to invest more into it. So it actually had a greater value than 3. And a lot of Death Rattle minions have that. Their statting is kind of meh, but they
Yeah.
get more value in different ways. So that's why I think Death Rattle is interesting. But I think there's way more mechanics that would be way more interesting that they need to put in this game.
Yeah.
Stefan, what about you?
I'm gonna say secrets. Like it's just a well executed, like it's very well executed because it kind of has the, cross turn interaction that you see in Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, but it avoids the whole problem that anyone who's ever played a card game online will know of, which is that you constantly has to check for priority,
Yeah.
and that's kind of eliminated when secrets just have an automated state. So it's a very well executed mechanics. It just needs better paladin ones.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. Matter of fact, we did a
Secret
whole episode on better Paladin secrets. My God.
I know. I watched it.
Secrets are well executed until I completely agree. From the game design philosophy Hearthstone is based on, Secrets is a very good design. They're a very good design till you factor in Mad Scientist. That card is
Um,
just really
Yeah,
good.
Mad Scientist needs to go.
I don't necessarily agree with that because it kind of just outlines the extremes among the secrets. Like it kind of shows which secrets are just generally extremely better than others. Like
I
I mean,
really like 2 mana clones, by the way. I really like playing a scientist for 2 mana, and then my opponent has to kill it, and then they have to, or I kill it myself, and then they get play a minion, and I get it. That seems really fair to me.
Yeah, that's huge amount of tempo play right there because of Mirror Entity. It's so huge. But you could play around that because almost anybody who plays Hearthstone knows that when you see a mage get a secret down, it's one of two things. It's a counter spell, which normally about a 33% chance it's a counter spell because they
It's
normally go
less.
one.
It's less. It's like 80% of the time it's mirror
It's
entity.
Mirror Entity. It is. But,
yeah.
you always got to factor for the most extreme amount. All right, so you always go with 1/3 because most deck designs is one counterspell to Mirror Entity, and then you get those crazy bastards who throw duplicates in there just to fuck you up. Um, and then of course you're going to see an Echo Medivh somewhere in the future. But I do actually like how secrets work. They do take the whole concept of instants and interruptions and kind of give it a soft availability in Hearthstone without the need for phases of play.
Yeah.
All right. If any of you ever played Magic the Gathering online or any online card game that has ever existed, that whole phasing
It's
thing was you think a life coach match takes long. You think that takes long. That's nothing. Play any control match in Magic the Gathering online. Life coach
It's
looks like a fucking speed demon.
when chiming on the secret thing, like when they initially announced, the card pool, and I was coming from Magic the Gathering. Naturally, I was playing a lot of blue control decks, and this is why I have very few friends. But I was, I looked at the Mage Secrets. Is okay. This is something I actually want to play because it was facilitating that control mindset. I set up my chess pieces, and then you start making your moves, and then you see how your plans are falling apart, and then you hate me. But so this is something I really wanted to play. Then, in reality, the secrets turn out really bad in terms of back in the vanilla days where you didn't have Mad Sandies. They were too expensive. They would lose your tempo, and once people figure out what you're playing, they just generally sucked, and you would not get a good bargain for. Things have gotten better now, and I think like right now, Mage is probably my most favorite class to play and play against, including. And this is only has gotten so because of cards like Mad Sandys, which is again by itself a terrible card and so broken. But it's
But it's
mage
only
secrets.
broken in 2.1
I know, I know.
classes, you know?
I know. Again, and the fact that we also get a new secret, duplicate, which is a card I really really love. I remember actually an episode of the Angry Chicken podcast where they were saying, "Oh, okay, this is garbage." As with every podcast that they say this is garbage, or any player that says, "Oh, this card is garbage," 3 months later, it turns out they're completely wrong. Green Patron. but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyways,
Actually, everybody was wrong on Green
yeah.
Patron because everybody said that was going to be gimmick. Nobody would really incentivize using it. And then we got to play around with it a little bit in that little launch of GVG when you could play with it in the arena. And people started realizing, wait a minute,
Yeah, this
I
shit
could do
is
some
gonna.
really
I
sick
was-
shit with this.
I was on Patreon day one, by the way.
Yeah,
Just for the record.
hipster patron, Yeah, I was on Doctor Boom actually when they revealed that bombs always explode because they only initially show that may explode, and this read really really funny. Like,
really wonky.
But
Yeah.
anyways, my original topic about the secrets is that secrets will become a better mechanic as more secrets and more secret cards get released. Because then you can actually make full use of secrets and make a deck that work with them beyond, I'm just gonna play Mirror Entity because I can get it for free, and then I can get a minion for free, which is just broken. Like, this is the only reason why people play Mirror Entity. It's not because it's an interesting card. It's in this format, it's terribly uninteresting card because you always know what's happening. As you said, Christian, 2 mana minion brings a free secret, and this free secret brings you a free minion, while your opponent tries to remove the card one, and then has to play either a shitty minion to counter your Mirror Entity, which is, again, it's free. He's not countering anything. Or if he plays a big minion, you get it too, and then it's your tempo again, which is, again, broken. But anyways, this was my original point. Give us more secrets. I am not saying give us secrets to secretless classes. I don't think this is wise. I think you can keep it to the classes that have it now.
And for like the 3 people who keep emailing me saying, "Hey, you need to make an episode where rogues get secrets." Fuck you. No. Because they want 0-cost secrets that are basically like the most basic. They want freezing trap for 0 mana. I'm like, no. No. And the one problem I have with adding more secrets to the game, I mean, yes, it's going to happen because you have to do it, is you're going to also have to introduce more counterplay options.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You must have a balancing point. Right now, we have one general all removal that is class-specific and a spell that gives you a card draw, which used to be really good to have, even if you're playing up a class that didn't have secrets. Now it's like, why play this when I could actually wait 2 turns and get a body with it as well?
Yeah.
I mean,
And take the secret.
I don't think counterplay to secrets necessarily has to be a tech card. I think you can easily make a point for just there being secrets that incentivize the mage to make a deck that's not about playing scientists on 2 and then stealing on 3. You can make a secret that rewards you much more in the late game in a different way than duplicate.
Yeah.
Just having more options.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
This is
I definitely.
It's going to be a difficult thing to do because secrets are very hard to balance just because of cards like Mad Scientist. You don't want to have like a super powerful secret that you can get for free. But
at the same time, almost no one wants to play them from hand because
of course,
they're very expensive.
It's kind of funny. Beforehand, when it came to mage secrets, they were some of the most powerful, but because of their cost, nobody really played them all that much. You did see decks that were running Curator Mage basically to get them out for free, right? But then Mad Scientist came along and was like, well, what the hell do I need Curator Mage for anymore?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's actually better to play Mad Scientist because Curator Mage, you have to have a secret in hand and you want to mulligan the secrets away because they're 3 mana. You want to get early drops again.
Yeah, the only time you actually see Curator Mage now is a heavy mage secret deck, which uses like Ethereal Arcanist and a lot of other stuff
Which
to basically lock you down, deny everything you can do, and it's just.
I've played those.
So
they're
off
fun. They're fun, but they're so off meta, and they so rarely win. But
I mean, the original Tempo Mage had the game plan of you played Kirin or you played Scientist, but if you drew the secrets, you played Kirin in the secret.
Yeah.
But it ended up just being that getting the secret off Scientist was so much better that you just didn't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I remember correctly, Kirin got replaced by Pilot Shredder.
Yeah, it seems like a good trade to me.
Speaking of mechanics that already exist, I'm surprised that you guys didn't mention Overload because by far,
Right.
but
I just did
See,
an episode on Overload.
by
about
far, yeah.
about Overload, I think that we didn't mention it says so much about Overload.
Come on. Like
Thank you.
I'm writing a extensive fundamentals article on tempo, and this is where I bring up overload, and I really enjoy the mechanic in how it's designed, basically, because it's based on fundamentals. Like, it teaches you how to manipulate curve, and it teaches you how to get tempo. And it works in a way that benefits you on one turn, punishes you on the other. Now, it's the problem with overloads are, I don't think it's the overload mechanic itself. It's just that the shaman class cards are shitty, and
Like,
There's
Like,
very
I can
little
tell you
incentive
something.
for playing it. In all
I mean-
honesty, I mean, there's nothing that synergizes with Overload except for Unbound Elemental. You
Sure,
need
sure.
more. You need more things that benefit from Overload in order for Overload not to be as brutal as it is.
I mean, to be honest,
I
Overload
think
just
the biggest, I think the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah, sorry,
flaw
Stefan.
with Overload is the rate that Blizzard is releasing new cards. Like, that's basically it, because it's a solo class mechanic, so it can never be rewarded in neutral cards. But at the
Yeah.
same time, because Blizzard is releasing so few class cards at such a sluggish rate, that it's just not catching on. Like, there's not enough options. There's not enough.
Well, they
Experience.
can't release too many class cards in one fell swoop, and there's a very specific reason for this. If you actually look at the value of a class card versus its neutral counterpart, it's night and day. Okay, you look at one drops for neutrals. All right, they're all generally
Yeah.
either 2/1, 1/2, or
And
like
then there's the
0/4 in some
1/3
cases.
class cards.
And then you get 1/3 for like 3 different classes. All right, and they all have a special ability, one of which is arguably broken and damn near requires you to have something that deals 3 damage instantly. But yet, Starving Buzzard was too OP.
I mean, the thing about Overload is that it's immensely outdated. It's usually on removal spells, and those removal spells have now become
Yeah.
too bad. They don't even kill what you need them to kill.
True.
So, it's like if Wrath only did 3 damage, it would be really bad in Druid, but instead you have another mode, so it's fine. That's the
Because of
problem Lightning
flexibility.
Bolt has. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem Lightning Bolt has. It's like it's a 2 mana. You can think about it as 2 mana card that deals 3 damage. If Lightning Bolt was 1 mana and didn't have Overload, I think it would be a completely reasonable card.
Okay,
Yeah,
what about this? What if they actually expanded the whole choose one mechanic to Shaman to where, hey, you're going to get this amount of value, but if you overload, you can now get this amount of value. I wouldn't mind that for...
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so check this out. All right, so Lightning Bolt, we'll take your example that you listed here. Does 2 mana, so it's pretty much an arcane shot like every other 1-drop spell is. But you want to pay an overload, congratulations, it now does 3. You look at Feral Spirits, hey, it's going to bring you out a 2/3, but if you want to pay 2 ahead of time, you get 2.
Oh, man.
All right? Give you that
It
option.
shows that you've played Magic the Gathering, because this is the kicker mechanic basically in Magic. What
Yeah.
did, and to those of our listeners who don't know, the kicker mechanic essentially said this card does this, but if you pay extra, it does something more. And again, I think
Be right back.
okay. So, anyways, yeah, I think like this will make Overload much better. But I just like the idea of what the mechanic represents. It sits on fundamentals, and it teaches you to properly plan your turns. And
It does.
there's so much potential in this mechanic. That this is what I love about it. I don't necessarily love the cards that have Overload, because I don't. As Christian said, they're tremendously overrated. Sometimes they're bad. Like, before, Feral Spirit was considered the most imbalanced card that Shaman had, and now
Yeah.
nobody fucking plays it. Like, even mid-range Shamans, they've dropped Feral Spirit. And to think about it, like, the first time Shamans played Feral Spirit against me, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, how do I get through this? Like, I was maining Paladin at the time. Like, what do I do? Like,
Okay,
do I
now I know
sacrifice?
you're lying. You were actually playing Zoom.
I was
That's besides the point.
no, I was
I remember playing Old Face Hunter and thinking, like, I
Yeah.
can never beat this card.
yeah. Okay.
Or
Again,
better yet, at 1 in 4 chance of getting a taunt totem. That's like the most horrible nightmare for any face hunter. Like, He got
No,
two taunt totems in a row. Fuck
It's
you.
it's an O2 though. That used to be that used to be fine. It's just feral. You'd play your leper gnome,
Yeah.
and you're like Timberwolf, and you could never deal with that.
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, it is, and now nobody plays it. Like again, like the overload is a weird mechanic nowadays because it sits on cards that are not useful. But I think like it has enormous potential. But it will be super hard to design overload cards that are like timeless.
I mean, the thing about the power creep in the game. Sorry, Chiv. I'll finish this.
That's fine. That's fine.
Feral Spirit. Let's say Feral Spirit never existed, and they just made a Shaman card in the next expansion. That's a 3-mana card that makes 2/2/3s with taunt, and it didn't have overload. They would be like, that's pretty strong, but that's a completely reasonable card
Yeah.
compared to
Exactly.
where the game has progressed. And I think that's kind of why they have to balance out overload again.
True.
No,
true.
I completely.
Yeah,
Completely agree.
make it a kicker, mechanic as we said, like an additional cost if you overload.
The kicker mechanic is one way you can handle that. The other way is, let's get more stuff like Unbound Elemental. All right, let's see some heals based off of overload. Let's see some mana reductions for minions. Like we actually did this in the last episode. We made a 1 mana basically Chillwind Yeti, but you could only play it if you had 4 overload.
Yeah, I was.
And
Well,
that
it's kinda like
incentivizes
the
using
weapon
Fork
mechanic.
Lightning, for fuck's sake, okay?
Wouldn't
Yeah.
it just, yeah, like wouldn't it? Why not just have a 5-mana Yeti that gets cost reduced for each?
Overload.
Because we couldn't be that simple, and I'm on a lot of pain meds, all right?
Yeah, because we know we're running a card design contest, and a lot of people, are sending shaman cards, and they have really, really good ideas about overloads. Cause,
Yeah, I've seen some of our ideas pop
yeah.
up on there by other people, too.
Yeah, one particular card I really remember, enjoying is that there was a totem that was dealing AoE damage based on your overload crystals, and you just drop it, and it's like a cheaper Doomsayer. But it's a Doomsayer you can actually control. Maybe you play beefy minions, and you only overload for so much, and then you deal control damage, and then the opponent dies and you don't, and stuff like this. Again, there's a lot of potential in overload that I feel that Blizzard can be exploiting. But again, moving slightly to the second part of the discussion, like what mechanics, let's say, we need in Hearthstone that we lack apparently.
I mean,
Simple. They can be simple. They can be convoluted. I know you guys play different MTGs. Like Stefan, let's start with Yu-Gi-Oh, because you're the only guy, probably I think, right, who played extensively. We are all MTG guys.
I played a bit.
actually, I played a ton.
So suddenly I'm
ranked-
the only guy who hasn't.
I was rank 1 Iceland.
I was at DCI. I lived in comic stores. I had to play fucking Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay, let's nonetheless, let's start with Stefan. Judging from Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, what do you think Hearthstone is missing that needs to be integrated that will actually help the game move forward?
I mean, when looking at Yu-Gi-Oh, the best lessons that Hearthstone can draw is all the things it shouldn't do.
So let's start with this then. Let's start because this is the more easier question, I
But-
think.
I want to say more like, extra deck stuff has always been one of the coolest stuff of Yu-Gi-Oh! And, Hearthstone has kind of something like that with the Mimion's head, like some crazy summoning condition that has...
like Zodia.
Not even that, like, Exodia is one of the worst cards designed ever. Like,
I know, but we're going with the whole XYZ fusions.
yeah, basically that, but yeah, essentially, like, it's cool. It's actually quite cool, and we like Miriam's head's also quite cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool in conceptualization, but its actual practicality in any kind of competitive ladder is absolutely absurdly
I mean,
bad.
I know.
if you think about it, though, that mechanic's not very self-explanatory, so that's kind of a problem. And I think that's where they stick it on a legendary, because newer players don't see legendaries that often, especially legendaries they haven't seen before. So
Yeah,
I think that's
I would still love to see it because setting the board, trying to collect pieces, and then you get like a super big minion that's super scary and OTKs you. That's something I actually want to see. It's I was
They
watching
also,
the Yu-Gi-Oh series. They had all these shit there.
there's also
Actually, if you really want to think about it, the whole Mimiron's head is not the first time we've seen something like that. There was also the
yeah,
Fugan
Thaddeus.
Stalag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thaddeus.
Thaddeus is also,
Those are also legendaries, though.
Yeah, exactly.
but they were free legendaries.
I don't.
Ish.
Ish.
Okay, Christian. Then, what do you want or want to see in Hearthstone?
Just more decision points and more early removal are my top two things.
Yeah, but those are not mechanics. Those are like Stefan
Yeah,
was saying. No, no,
Oh,
no, no.
You can
Those
give
are
them
mechanics.
you can give them fancy names like Killathon or
Kill it.
Seriously.
No, 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 no. You're compounding out of this question. No, no. We're
Fine,
talking
fine,
about we're talking
anyhow,
about mechanics.
your mechanics. I think less tribal and more kind of maybe synergy with battle cry and minions, that synergy that isn't death rattle oriented would be nice. Just more synergy between different cards
I
and
got you, I got
synergy, that sort of thing.
Chiv.
Okay, I actually prepared for this one.
I know you did.
Oh.
This is why I leave
I
you
always
for
prepare
last.
for this because I've got like this like Skype group full of like every like name player that's worth a damn in my book and personalities, and we talk about a lot of this stuff. I mean, a few of them ended up on your show for some odd reason. But okay, so one thing that I'd really like to see introduced in this game is transitional statting, and what that means is, on your turn, it has a specific stat. On your opponent's turn, it might either have a higher or lower stat. Thus, you'll have some minions that are great on defense, but horrible on offense.
All right.
But the problem with this is, because there's no blocking mechanic in this game, like there is in Magic and pretty much every other goddamn game, Face Hunter still is going to go around it. So what I'd like to see is like taunt on your turn or like on your opponent's turn. That way they'll have to get through it. But hey, it's a taunt, but it's going to have lower stats. But on your turn, it might have a slight increased stat. That's something I think would be kind of interesting. I'd like to see more interactions with certain abilities that we already have, with the exception of combo. I think some of that would be really, really good. We saw some really interesting mechanics tried out in both BRM and GVG, and we saw a whole lot of fail mechanics in those too. I'm like, I think we need to definitely explore some of those other mechanics, like going off what Christian said here, the card interaction stuff. Look at Flame Waker. That's a prime example of it right there.
Oh, I forgot to talk about that.
But if you think about it, Flame Waker literally brought back cards that weren't seen in the meta for quite some time. Magic Missiles hardly was ever seen other than, earlier on with Antonidas, maybe. All right? But it kind of wasn't even there because, spare parts were all the rage. And same with Mirror Entity. And lo and behold, because Grim Patron took off, Mirror Entity actually gained more value because patrons ain't growing for shit off of fucking 0-2. Let alone two of them.
Oh, you mean mirror image then?
Mirror image.
Yeah, mirror image.
Yeah,
There's too many mirrors for damn mages.
There's only
Somebody-
two.
That's too many. But what I want to see more card interactions like that. Like one of my favorite cards when I got into CBT, I opened up my pack. First rare I got was Questing Adventure. I love that card because it made me think like, oh, so basically as I'm building my board, as I'm doing anything, I'm getting value out of this.
Additional
And then
value.
and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, silence is a thing.
We'll get to that.
There's a mechanic I really want to see on more cards. Do you know the legendary Mechanier Thermoplug?
Yes.
Yeah.
The 9-mana one? I
I
think
got a good video for that one too.
I think there should definitely be cards that would gain off your opponent's minions dying, because you could play it and then gain a bunch of value off it.
All right.
Something
Well,
like
There's already Frothing Berserker, which also gets that benefit as well.
yeah, but it's so small and it's more of a combo card.
Yeah,
I mean, more like
it's-
let's
it's
say
only
I don't want Frothing
24.
Berserker to be any bigger.
yeah, let's say there's a priest card, for example, that's like whenever an opponent's minion dies, you gain 2 life, for example, and it's a recently statted minion. Something simple.
For some odd reason, I'm seeing Monty Python's Holy Grail and those priests running around with the boards, smacking themselves in their head. Actually, that would be a great card art.
I was actually, thinking about this myself, and I'm kind of leaning Christian's way, because I actually want to see not new mechanics per se, like, cause the first thing I thought was, okay, we need something like trample, we need something like flying, because I was coming from Magic the Gathering, but okay, so this is too obvious, right? And when looking at the card design submissions that the guys, the people send me, they actually have a lot of cool synergies between the card and an existing mechanic. Either it counteracts it, or diminishes its value, or improves it. And one of the what I see a lot is the a synergy between the freeze mechanic and another card. So there will be like something like, okay, if this minion is frozen, do something to it. Kind of like how Ice Lance is, but Ice Lance is the only real card that interacts with freeze, right? There isn't any other card. So this is something I would like to see. Like if a minion is frozen, this minion gets, I don't know, fucking charge or something like this. Or if there's like something like, what was the little exorcist, where it punishes your player, and grants you bonuses for the other person getting too many death rattles or something. This is something I like to see, because the mechanics that we have are cool, but I think so much more value can be extracted out of them just by making cards that interact with them.
Exactly.
My favorite designs from our card contest was actually the really simple ones.
Yeah.
You posted one on the website that I wanted to talk about. It's like a 4/5 for 3, I think. It's Chromie, and when you play, your opponent's minion costs
this one.
minion costs
Yeah.
one less.
Yeah, this one was great. Yeah. Like
that is actually good. I mean, that's right up there with the Hungry Dragon mechanic.
Yeah.
You really want to think about
this
that.
guy actually wrote quite a lot of text, and he wants to say he wanted to do it like a Hungry Dragon, but Chromie themed, because it's a dragon that manipulates time, and it's actually it's a really, really, really good design. I really love it personally, and I'm all for simple and elegant designs. This is why when I see a card design with extravagant texting and explanation of mechanics, I'm reserved about it, because I don't think a card needs to be complex. I think like a simple design gets you a long way. And this is why I would love to see something like, there was actually a card in the recent card contest that it said, when an opponent plays a battle cry, you silence and destroy it, and you put this minion on the field. Now, power level aside, it's ridiculously strong, but still, like, I haven't seen something that counteracts battle cries. This is something of an idea I want to see. You play a battle cry, and then the opponents, maybe there's a secret now, or something like this. If a battle cry minion is played, something happens. If a minion is frozen, something happens. If you have too many charge minions, you can play this, hyper chromash double whirlwind or something, and stuff
Wait a
happens.
minute. Wasn't there a next card that like increased the cost of Battlecry minions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't do it.
See, I've seen that way too often off piloted Shredder.
Yeah. That I know. That's the only reason I'm remembering. I had that happen to me yesterday. I'm like, son of a bitch! All my hand is Battlecry.
See, I agree with Nydra. I really like the really simple designs. Like, entertaining, the class that has the most of this in Hearthstone is Priest. Like Vol'jin. Vol'jin is one of my favorite Hearthstone cards.
Yeah.
Just
Vol'jin
because
is
it's
so simple.
Yeah, it's like you understand it right away. Oh, you switch health, so you can, and immediately, even from a new player standpoint, you can see why this card would be good, and you see when this card would be bad. So that's just going over my collection right now. Cards like Dark Cultist, for example, is a really nice card.
Dark Cultist is amazing as well. The Twitch chat is asking and about Graveyard, and this is something I was also planning to bring up. And a lot of card games have this, but what about? Because I know that you guys are grunting in disapproval, and I'm also grunting in disapproval, because I think it goes against the entire nature of Hearthstone. Hearthstone is supposed to be on the board only thing.
I'm going to say this right now, as playing it from Magic the Gathering, and we're going to go back a little bit to the black mana restrict deck from actually a lot far back. Yeah, graveyard mechanics are cool until you could actually punish what's available in the deck because of it. Now in Hearthstone, that's not really so bad because you only can have a max of 2, but when you get to certain graveyard mechanics, I mean, you have to really keep them limited. Resurrect, that's fine. You might be able to introduce one other one that is, return a minion that just died on this turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could technically count redemption, but adding too much in there, the last thing I ever want to see is, haha, I big game huntered your Ragnaros. Ragnaros comes right back.
What I'm actually fine with graveyard interaction. I'm not fine with it being accessible because it
Yep.
goes against the design philosophy.
Exactly.
You can have stuff like
Yeah.
Resurrect. I really like that design actually, but you can't have stuff like you can't have
Monsters
stuff. Yeah, like you look and you pull out something cool. That's not how that philosophy was.
I
I actually
mean-
like Shiv's idea about something that died this turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say, I mean, the road to hell goes through a graveyard. Like, I mean, it's basically the start to making it. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's basically become a second deck at this point. Like,
See-
I mean, Magic Gathering is the same thing, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
not
it's-
necessarily.
But
No,
basically,
he's
it's
right.
w-
He is so fucking right.
Once upon a time, it wasn't the second deck; it was your primary deck. Where in the golden days, where Entombed wasn't banned.
You used to not be able to look at your deck until you cast that spell. It used to be that way in the rulings. But then they've made so much deck and graveyard manipulation that it was like, all right, well, let them be able to look at it whenever they want. There was actually rules about that for us.
Stefan, and guys, if you ever want to see a reason why Hearthstone shouldn't have graveyard interaction, just look at any given competitive Yu-Gi-Oh match.
I know.
It's like, well, people searching their graveyards constantly for stuff, or.
No,
I
actually,
stopped-
They actually stopped that because that ended up being too slow. So now the recent cards just start use the deck as a straight up resource. Like,
I mean, I remember when at some point the time period I quit playing Yu-Gi-Oh was when I stopped. This is when I picked up Magic. Is when I stopped bothering to read cards because the text was really long and it was really, really complicated. I mean, of course,
You
I
need a
understood
pair
the
of
game.
reading glasses at 12 years old to read a Yu-Gi-Oh card these days.
Yeah. So you just look it up and you're like, whoa, what does this do? I mean, that's a lot of text. I'm just gonna let you use it and then I'm gonna see what happens.
This is the graveyard talk is a nice segue towards mechanics that actually shouldn't exist in Hearthstone, because I think again we're almost on the phase of if we have it, it should be limited and very intuitive in the spirit of Hearthstone. But speaking of mechanics that should never ever be put into Hearthstone, let's talk about this, and let's first get the obvious out of the way. We know that there won't be any hand disruption. We know there won't be any mana disruption. I mean, mana disruption is something that even old games like Magic the Gathering say, okay, this is fun. This is not fun.
Land
and
destruction.
We don't want it. We actually want players to accumulate power and then use it to play something cool. When you destroy it, it's not fun for anybody. So
There's only one class that should have any availability to that, and I'm going to say Shaman, and that'd be a really great interaction for Overload. It's like, oh, I'm overloaded. Here, you can have my Overload too.
yeah, sure, but again, this is not technically land destruction because you will get the crystals back. Maybe you'll just
It's
block.
tempo.
It'd be basically Lotheb. In a way, but again, I agree with you, but I know that we will never see mana crystal disruption or destruction anytime soon, and I think this should stay. It should stay this way.
Yeah.
It's same with hand disruption. Like, I don't want people to look at my hand and then discard something I want to play. Not because I want to beat him with it. It's because decks, I feel nowadays, especially control decks, they rely on a very limited number of win conditions. For example, if you take away Archmage Antonidas from a Frost Mage, how does it win? It doesn't.
Alexstrasza, Fireballs.
Alexstrasza, Pyroblast, yeah.
Yeah, but still, what if he takes away Alexstrasza then? What if it plays
Ragnaros.
What if it plays the second copy of this hypothetical card and takes away both Antonidas and
yeah.
Alexstrasza's?
Yeah.
What do we do then? Like, again, this is something that I think
Unstable portal for a Death Swing.
yeah, fuck off.
I'm going to be right back because I got a feeling what the next topic is. I'm going to need some alcohol for this.
Okay. So, anyways, Where was it? Yeah, I hadn't like this is something I feel that will actually bring back even more aggro decks in the meta than we currently have because they have a lot more, win conditions. But
Aggro decks don't have win conditions. They just
yeah,
do damage.
yeah, of course. Like you cannot really take away this away from them with a simple, hand disruption. But anyways, let's talk about other possible mechanics that we don't want to have, like either that do not exist yet in Hearthstone and we want to keep it this way, or mechanics that currently exist and have to go out. Stefan, I'm gonna start with you because you actually wrote an article for Girls Gamers where you listed the five most problematic cards in Hearthstone's future, right? And very high on this list was Iron Beak Owl. Now,
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of people saw this as a weird decision, and I know that you were, people argued like, "Where's Big Game Hunter?" stuff. Like you made a
I
follow up
answered that.
article, another article that people should definitely check out. I'll link them in the description. But let's start with Iron Beak Owl and Silence. Now, Silence is a mechanic that already exists in Hearthstone, and
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people don't like it. I am right on the edge of it. Like sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But I know that you're opponent of it. Talk about a bit about it.
I mean, I think like silence is basically based on a fallacy. Like I like to say that it's based simply on a wrongful idea that you can have a system where you design cards that basically have effects that are way too strong. Like, Beta Twilight Drake that gained attack and health, but
Yep.
lost it all when you silence it. Or Tyrion that's basically a god until he's silenced. And
Hmm.
the problem is, it's always only as consistent as, and also, 5 mana Sylvanas, by the way. Basically, it's always as consistent as your chance of drawing it, which is terrible. Like, not only do you need to add it to your deck, but you also need to draw it at the time and have it available. And that's just too much. And because these kind of counter cards that aren't specialized will always have massive collateral damage. Like, you also see this with Big Game Hunter. Like, Giants are nuts. Like, they are utterly imbalanced. And Big Game Hunter basically kind of solves that, along with some other really strong removal. But Big Game Hunter also has massive collateral damage. Like, Kipler wrote an entire article on that, and it's good, kind of, and I also did one. And that's kind of the problem. And everything about silence lies in that, because it has too high application and it stops too many kind of cards. And it's in general not effective against what it's meant to, like, Twilight Drake and I don't know.
How would you solve
Sylvanas.
Silence then? How would you solve it? Like would you change the mechanic? Would you remove it? Would you?
I think I would just straight up, like, I think Blizzard. The problem with current Silence, which is Owl, is that it has too much follow-up potential, and I think the problem is that it's basically, like, I think Blizzard did a mistake when they priced it as a static price. I think it's about 2 stats worth, and I think it needs to be more of a linear price. The cheaper it is, the more it loses. So basically,
Oh, hold up now. Silence the spell itself is 0 mana, so I don't.
yeah,
really
and that's
think that-
100%. First of all, it's for the worst class in the game, and second of all, it's 100% of the body, and maybe for 2 mana it needs to lose 86%. So
Well, 2/1 is a 1 mana stat, so it's literally paying 1 mana more for that silence and beast synergy.
yeah, and I think it maybe needs a bit more cost to actually, like, I think Iron Beak Owl is too cheap simply because it allows too much follow-up. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with Spellbreaker, and I think, honestly, they could make a legendary that has the full stats of Boulder Fist Ogre and still have a silence. I don't think that would be a problem in the meta.
I think we've designed that at one point, and then we argued about it, and then said, "Well, why would I play this when I could play this instead?" So it always came down to that. I do agree with you. It is a cheap option, but it's meant to be a cheap option. It's meant to activate more aggressive, faster type decks.
And it
All
doesn't
right?
work when it has such high utility against, basically against so much higher cost cards. Like, it's too cheap for what it can do.
I'd rather have flexible answers than flexible threats for what it's worth.
Thank you.
That's kind of the problem with that argument, I think. I actually kind of disagree with you.
I mean, there's a reason why we don't see more than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 silences that are in the game. No, 6. I always forget about Keeper of the Grove. There's a reason why we don't see any more than that. All right, and Blizzard has stated this repeatedly. Wow, I start drinking Bacardi and Coke, and I get a lot more sensible. But the reason for that is silence is a very powerful tool. We all know it's a very powerful tool. Any of us who've ever had to deal with Sylvanas, any of us who've ever had to deal with Tyrion, knows exactly how powerful silence is. Because if you don't have a Hex or a Polymorph, silence is the next best thing, since they nerfed the shit out of Tankmaster. So silence is powerful. We all know this, but yet we don't want to dedicate enough of our deck design towards it. And Blizzard doesn't want us doing that. They don't want a whole meta homogenized around silence. That's why they'll probably never introduce any more silence mechanics than already they have. I mean, there's a fucking AoE silence in the game. And again, it's on the worst class in the game.
Arguably.
Arguably the worst class in the game. So
See, from a player standpoint, I'd argue that Warrior is the worst class because of its hero power is terrible. But when we get into specific decks, we can talk about that. But that's something
let's
for
not
another
though.
day.
Let's not.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
That's a big rabbit hole. What about another thing that I know Stefan really hates is switching control of minions. Because you guys brought up Sylvanas, and how can you not? Now only a few cards actually allow switching of controls. We have Sylvanas, we have Mind Control Tech, we have Cabal Shadow Priest, Mind Control. What else is there?
Shadow Madness is temporary.
Shadow Madness, but it's temporary, so it's okay, I guess.
Not really.
Misdirection is technically, but it's
nah.
You're just refocusing where the attack is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So what about control switching? Like, are we better off without it? Is it too broken? Is it too unfair?
I think we have a fine balance of it right now, because the one that allows you to actually pick which target you want.
It's in the worst possible class, right?
Again, worst possible class, and one of the most expensive cards in the game. It's like there's
like
I'm gonna
4,
go
10
win a tournament with Priest, so you guys can start.
All right, hold up. That's been done before. I want you to win it with Aggro Priest.
Yeah,
Oh wait,
okay.
I already did that. Never mind.
He's an aggro player, so
Like,
Yeah, that will probably be easier for me than trying to win with a control Priest, to be honest.
Like, this is basically from a perspective of the Yu-Gi-Oh player in me. And I can tell you a simple story about how switching control worked in Yu-Gi-Oh. It didn't. They had to ban every single one of the times they introduced a card like this. And when they then reintroduced one of the card, it had to be banned after 3 months, even though it spent 10 years of power creep. It couldn't solve it. Like, this mechanic is wicked powerful. Like,
I mean, that's in that game, though. In that game, you took your opponent's thing, and then you fused it with your thing to make a big dragon or something. In this game, you steal them with, like, Shadow
a
Madness.
big dragon already.
Yeah, but, like, they cost
a
so
bigger
much mana.
dragon.
The only reason Sylvanas sees play is because she's both a 6-mana 5/5, and 5/5s occupy a very specific spot in the metagame where they're actually very solid. And she has a powerful effect that can swing games. That's the only reason she's there. If Sylvanas had an effect that was like Death Rattle, draw 2 cards, she'd still steal play.
Yeah.
So I don't think
when she was 5 mana, she was like in every deck.
Yeah.
Even Zoo
Yeah, she's
had
still,
her.
she's still in every control deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Slash midrange.
and mid range.
Like-
Yeah, like only phase
Well, a
decks.
lot of
you know.
control decks have actually phased her out, and more for Emperor Thurzan, though.
Yeah, but those aren't control decks. That can't be.
Really? Have you looked at
But
Wireless?
you know, one point that Stefan was making in the same article, and then in the article about the universe Everett, is as the power creep becomes more prominent, cards like Sylvanas become even more dangerous because
Yeah,
now they're still bigger
it's
and fatter
never
things.
gonna expire. She's never gonna leave.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem, and it's also like it's just like it's just impossible to balance out. Like
Now,
I don't.
my problem
Wait,
with
why do you need to balance this out? I think she's a completely fair card.
Yeah, the RNG actually balances her out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
opponent can't. I mean, when you're using Sylvanas, I mean, you're always going to try to get the best value to get the best target with it. So that means you're going to have to sacrifice hand advantage in order to get that really good minion you really want it. And that may require you to do some really wonky stuff like I'll kill like everything on the board, and then I'll put a power overwhelming on Sylvanas attack phase just to take your Ragnaros. Have a nice day.
But but the crazy thing is that that's value, and that's kind of like even that extreme case is kind of value. And
It is, but I mean, it's still board manipulation, and then it's like punch to the face, and yet another form of board manipulation at the end. That's how this game is. You can manipulate the RNG to certain degrees with certain cards. Sylvanas is one of them. Ragnaros.
I think
is another.
Sylvanas is much better for the game than Haunted Creeper, for example. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So
You know,
That's just-
my problem actually with control switching is that it's permanent for most of the time. Like
Yeah,
you cannot reverse it. Like in Magic, when
It's
you
silenceable,
yeah
basically.
yeah, it's actually exactly it's silenceable. In Magic, when you steal something with confiscate, people can just disenchant, like kill the confiscate, which is like an enchantment, and get their minion back. But in Hearthstone, there isn't. Like there are only ways to play their own control switching card and take it back, which is, it's a mechanic that it's not punishable. Like it wins all the time. There's no drawback
Yeah.
to it. Like
Yeah,
And that was the case in Yu-Gi-Oh as well, basically. Like because you couldn't, because it was never gonna stick around for as long as there was never any permanent mind control. But it would never stick around for as long as until it would expire. It would always be used for something bigger, and that's basically what killed every mind control card.
I
out
mean,
there.
the thing is, you can't. I like what Niger said. You can't balance the card by saying, "But it dies to this," and it's like I think Sylvanas is fine by that argument.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
my
it's a
argument
card you can't
is-
play solo on its own without sacrificing the value. Because the moment you
Yeah.
play that solo, it's gone.
Especially if you think about it, playing Sylvanas, and if you're ahead playing Sylvanas, she's like a 6-mana 5/5,
Yep.
and I think that's a completely reasonable card.
Let's move away from, because I think we spent a lot
Well,
of.
hold on. I actually want to get in on something.
Okay,
'Cause
okay.
because I walked away. There's a couple cards in this game that I honestly think should not exist in this game.
Remember, we're
This is
talking
why-
about mechanics, not just cards.
Oh,
you
I
hate.
am
Yeah,
talking
no,
about
but
mechanics.
this-
I'm talking about.
I'm
something very
just
specific.
Mechanics
going
are
to
the word mechanic is very subtle, to be honest.
It is. I'm going to talk about the dark ritual of fucking Hearthstone.
Oh boy.
Yes, we're gonna get there. What this podcast is named after. Fuck Innervate. Yes, Bacardi 151 and Coke. Here you go, guys. All right. Innervate, probably one of the most broken mechanics in the game. There is nothing else that allows so much of a power shift than Innervate. You ask any pro player, they'll go, oh yeah, that card's broken as fuck. All right? They all know it's broken as fuck. We all know it's broken as fuck. And yet, it continues to be allowed to exist. Innervate actually screws up so much possible Druid deck design. Me and Nox, we're working on stuff for Druid right now, and every time we come up with a cool idea, we have to scrap it because fucking Innervate exists. Innervate is so toxic. I mean, I'm okay with Emperor Thurzang creating a, mana reduction at a certain point. But the fact of the matter is, you can get a Ragnaros on turn 3? No, fuck you, Innervate. That should not exist. Couple other things in this game that should not exist. All right, let's look at little Mr. Core Rager here with the no cards in hand. All right, so this is a common thing you see in Hunter, but guess what? Stat lining for no cards in hand, retarded. Card draw for no cards in hand based off a spell, that's actually smart. I like
But
that.
Courageous is a shit card, so why are you bringing it in?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about a couple of things. We need to get rid of Mad Scientist. We need to get rid of every single thing that says the word charge. I'm sorry.
What's wrong with charge? Every card game has charge.
Yeah, but guess
Well,
what?
if you wanna
In our
have powerful
you have to
legendaries-
you have your opponents being able to block things with charge with their board. Here, unless you have a taunt, which if you actually start counting up all the taunts that are available in the game, they're actually worth a damn. Guess what? It doesn't equate.
With 2 cards.
The thing
Yeah,
is,
right?
if you go so far to defend Sylvanas as we did and like being, oh yeah, Sylvanas is fine. Sylvanas isn't fine when there's no charge and every deck is just playing all the best legendaries.
Oh no, I
Sylvanas
agree,
is
but I think there's just
really,
too much
really
charge in the game. That's
good
what.
if everyone has Sneed's Old Shredder in their deck.
Yeah,
That's
Oh
what I'm saying.
God,
If they
yeah.
remove charge, everyone plays Sneeds. Then
like that's kind
then
of the broken
Sylvanas is a problem.
scenario.
Then Owl is a problem. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm so sick of charge because you see so many deck archetypes around it. Warsong Commander. Yeah, you knew your ass was next.
Come on,
I
he was
thought
bugged.
you were actually talking just
No,
the-
I'm talking about like specific mechanics available in these cards, and being able to apply a charge to multiple things. We already saw how that was problematic with the original Unleash the Hounds Hunter. It's why Unleash the Hounds got changed in the first place. Which, hey, message to Blizzard: the meta already took care of that. Thank you, Defender of Argus, Feral Spirits. But they nerfed that, and then all of a sudden, Warsong Commander grew in such huge value, and then it phased out because they took away its ability to make giants charge. Oh, but they left in Frothing Berserker and all their other little mechanics, and they even added more mechanics to make this more disgusting. So, Frothing Berserker should not allow things that grow beyond 2 to still gain charge. That's
I actually think Patron is completely fine.
I have no
However,
problem with Patron.
it
It's
needs
Frothing
no.
Berserker
I
have
mean
a problem
the
with.
deck, not the because I think it's not one of the most busted things in the game, and I think if they tapped it on the shoulder, it would be completely balanced. I think like Scientist is very good, and I agree with that. I think while Scientist is in the game, you can't really complain about frothing.
Yeah,
Because we were talking about Innervate, it brings me to
Innervate's broken.
it brings me to something that's been worrying me myself for a long time, and especially when GVG came out and they released the max, it's mana cost reduction. Now, mana cost reduction is a plague to all to card games for as long as I've been playing card games, like especially
Matt Corper.
exactly,
With the exception
like
of Dragon Consort
No,
for
that's-
Dragon Paladin.
fuck this. Like one time, even though like Dragon Consort is good, but the class and the cards that are available to Paladin are shit. This is why Consort is shit card. Because actually, if you can play Consort and follow up with a good Dragon, you can actually win games. The problem with Dragon Paladin lies elsewhere. Like I think I've talked about this. Like
Oh yeah.
it's not the Dragon Consort's fault. I think that the card is fantastic. But
No,
the
it is fantastic. 5/5 for 5.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
But
The Dragon Paladin deck doesn't go under the Hearthstone umbrella of good deck.
Yeah,
Is
yeah, exactly. There's a problem. The problem lies elsewhere. But mana cost reduction cards. As soon as I saw Mech Warper, I remembered Affinity back in the Mirrodin block, and I started puking because this was it's an incredibly stupid, easy, and powerful snowbally deck to play. Like we've been talking about, how Hearthstone is incredibly snowbally game by design, at least the current Hearthstone, and mana cost reduction incentivizes it. It facilitates it. Innervate is probably the best tempo card in the game. True, and then you have Mech Warper, which is the second best thing that's available to every class.
But it's also on a body too, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Consort.
Though, actually, I'd argue that putting Mechwarper on a body makes it more interactive than Innervate.
Sure.
Yeah,
Wild
I'll
Growth.
give you that. Yeah, I
And
will
it
give you that.
also
But I also think
leads
the
to
static of
striking
Mech Warper
plus.
needs to change to at least a 2/2.
Sure.
I think Juggler should be a 2/2, but that's another story.
Yeah. Yes. Because
it was
priests
like-
don't have enough targets.
Yeah, this is something that I really need. I don't think it should go away from Hearthstone, but I think it should be very carefully controlled and restricted. Like mana cost reduction is one of the most powerful effects in card games, especially in a game like Hearthstone where every card is so on point costed. Like at the moment it costs even one less, it becomes a disaster. Like if you don't believe me, like look at Flare. It increased by just 1 mana and it's never played anywhere.
Look at Starving Buzzard. That went from 2 for a 2/2 to a 2
Now,
to
that's a
2/1
big- that's
to
a big
5 to a. Oh my god.
That's a
and
big
you know what?
change.
They totally screwed that card up so much that it's unplayable. But they have so many ways of fixing it. Matter of fact, the other day I got an email for somebody because they were tired of me bitching about Hunter because Almost every podcast we've done, I've made fun of Hunter. Every Mechtorks Workshop, I make fun of Hunter. My stream, I make fun of Hunter. I go on Twitter and I bash Ben Brode for his lousy design of Hunter.
I
And it's
agree.
surprising how many people actually like and favorite that shit and retweet it. And he actually, using some very colorful language, I've since deleted it, but I was called many really nasty names, including a homeless dick sucker. Actually challenged me. If you think you could do better, Mr. I Create fan cards, go ahead and redesign the Hunter set. So I'm actually in the process of doing it. I already figured the way of fixing half the mistakes they've done. This isn't that
I
hard.
agree. I
mean,
would
you
love
could
to
have
help with
turned
that.
you could have turned Starving Buzzard into a 2/4 that every time it makes a summon, it loses 1 life. Because, hey, guess what? Hunters don't have any natural mechanic of healing their beast, which counter to fucking WoW lore. So you make make it that way. That way, when they do the Unleash the Hounds, guess what happens? They only get a max of 4 card draws, 6 at most if they play it cleverly. And, oh, look at that. It's gone. It dies immediately. So they're not getting this huge amount of card draw like they were getting before. And it still puts it on par with the whole preparation sprint, which, hey, Rogue's been able to do that shit for some time, Ben. And yet you punished Hunters for similar.
Okay, to bring the podcast towards an end, because I think we are constantly derailing this topic, and I kind of expected it. This is why I anticipated
It's a very
a longer
broad
podcast.
topic.
Of course.
Yeah.
We can do
warned
like
you beforehand.
I know,
This is
I
gonna
know.
happen.
Like I'm not stopping you, because I actually know that we can do like 3 more episodes just talking about card design, because we are all into it.
Hell, I
Yeah, I'll
have
just have to
5
go to
cards
liquor
lined
store.
up for an article.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But we kind of have to end it at some point,
Yeah.
because people don't have
yeah.
all night. I mean, we do, because we are no-lifers. But final question: what playstyle do you think the future of Hearthstone should try to emulate, and what playstyle should try to avoid? Let's start at the carousel from Shiv, then Christian, then Stefan.
All right. Well, if I've learned anything from looking at what we've been getting out of each like adventure and or pack expansion, like this, 2 adventures and the pack expansion we've gotten, is some classes get some really good burst potential. Very much so. Like a lot of early aggression came with Hunter out of Naxxramas. And then you get to like GVG, you saw Mage coming up with some nasty burst, and of course Dr. Boom, huge amounts of burst on that if you didn't have an instant counter. So I got a feeling we're going to see a lot more burst still going to be relevant in the game. But what I'd really, really like to see is less incentive on these fast, quick, punishing you for having a shit opening hand decks. I am tired of Cancer. I am tired. Personally, if I see Leper Gnome, I want to crawl through my screen, go through the internet, go through that person's monitor, and bitch slap the living hell out of them. Especially when they're on the casual mode, when I'm trying to invent some new sort of craziness.
We just lost Nimsh as a listener. Sorry.
Oh, I know. He's like the Leper Nimsh.
Man,
But,
you gotta be careful not to lose me as a co-host.
Yeah, he's the guy
Oh,
that.
Iceland's a little bit hard. That I got to go up through a satellite. That's no fun. But no, I want to see less of this. Snowball. Less of that, because that's no fun. All right, it's anti-fun to basically, okay, well, you never get that perfect opening to deal with these snowball hands. You never get it. I mean, yeah, you can say, oh, all you got to do is pull hard for a Fiery War Axe. Yeah, and then you get everything but the Fiery War Axe, so you're going to take like 4 turns of pounding before you have an answer. That's never fun. That is the exact opposite of fun for the player base. The game should be a lot more interactive. If players can't actually feel like they're interacting with their board, if they're having even the remotest of chance, because there's some matchups that are just automatically are going to be horrible. And I'm not saying they should change that to where they're more on equal terms, but you got to do something about the most cancerous ones. Hunter being most notable. A lot of the mech synergies need some real look at the balancing of them. All right, let's be
Okay,
honest.
what do you want to see then?
I want to see more. I want to see more of a
interactive.
mid-range, more combination. I would like to see combo. Combo used to be something we saw all the time. Miracle Rogue, a few other things. But, they were just too much for the average player to handle. And next thing you know, people complained. But they're okay with aggro.
Okay,
I don't
Christian.
get that.
Christian.
So you guys talk about burst potential, which is actually a topic I wanted to bring up. In Hearthstone, burst is the only comeback mechanic because you play a bunch of your early cards and they play a bunch of their early cards, and then the person whose early cards line up better and who maneuvers the game better generally comes out on top. And then the other person tries to burst him down or clear his board. The thing is, there's so many. It's so much easier to clear your opponent's face than
Yeah.
their board. We see this because the game lacks a cheap sweeper. Most of them are expensive with tacked on upside, and most of those still lose out to death rattle minions or are conditional and lose to high elf minions, and that's definitely something that influences the metagame a lot. So that's maybe something I'd like to see cheaper, maybe 2-for-1s, removal effects, something like that.
All right, Stefan.
Yeah, definitely like to see more incentivizing towards traditional, mid-range style play of like, I mean, I think when people say that Hearthstone should move towards a certain play style, people get very offended that it's elitism towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the wrong mentality because there is definitely such a thing as the ideal play length. Like, there's a game can be too short, and a game can definitely be too long. And there is definitely a middle towards that should be strided against, and that's also something I've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like people hate burn decks, people hate Exodia decks, people want them to burn to death for playing those decks,
Yeah.
and focus more on the more intuitive standard play of getting up to the 5 to 6 cost minions and have them have a place in the
Definitely.
game.
I mean,
Like-
I think one entertaining aside about that, Nidra, you mentioned in MTG you had no friends because you just played blue control decks.
Yeah.
It's the absolute opposite in Hearthstone. In
Oh, yeah.
in Magic, I'd play mid-range decks, stuff like that. It's mostly what I play. If I play Face Hunter in Hearthstone, it's you
You're
get
the
absolutely
worst, but
humanized.
You get people adding you saying, nice face hunter
But,
deck, faggot.
yeah, but I think like aggro decks and control decks behave differently in Hearthstone and Magic, particularly because there's never a point in Hearthstone where you play control deck, somebody tries to play something, and then you counter spell and give him the finger. Like this never happens. Instead, control decks in Hearthstone are way more difficult to play than in Magic, in my opinion, and they actually are taxing towards the player. You have so many options, and a lot of these control decks are stuff like handlock, where you have have to take a lot of big decisions what to play on each turn. So like in blue control Magic, like you're just being reactive all of the time. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I agree.
I
But,
mean, all control decks in Hearthstone are creature control decks.
yeah, exactly. And neither of them were creature controls in Magic the Gathering. They were all spell controls, basically, which makes it boring. And I understand why people hate it.
Oh, come on. There was token control with enchantments, too. Let's not forget.
Like I'm just gonna chime in with Chief here and say that we need more synergy between synergy and interactives. I think this is what the Hearthstone is always wanted to be. Like I remember I was interviewing Strifecrow in one of the first interviews he gave at Sea Story Cup 1, and he said, and that's something he repeated in every other interview. Like he believes that Hearthstone is all about creature battles with spell support, which perfectly describes the mid-range deck. We don't want to have something in the aggressive extreme, because playing Face Hunter, even though it might not be the easiest thing to do, it's still you're just following one goal.
One thing I think could be interesting is if they introduced like equipment, like, okay, we got weapons already that we actually have control of, but what about like a shield that is only really interacting on our opponent's turn? And it wouldn't just like armor shielding. We're talking about like other sort of things, like, oh, you take damage, summon a 2/2 or some shit like that. There's lots of different mechanics that they could work in with equipment that you could use. Like, as you take damage, another effect is going to happen. Obviously, card draw is not something I ever want to see. because that's just broken as all hell.
All right.
Because
I definitely think they can expand on the weapons in that regard, like
Mhm.
a riposte keyword that basically means it's active on your opponent's turn. That's
Thank you. Yes.
something they could
Yeah,
work
yeah.
Because that gives a little bit more dynamic to the game because we don't have instants, we don't have interrupts that we could have in that phase that we normally would with Magic the Gathering. So we need something that is kind of automated for all intents and purposes, like secrets are. So
I mean, I like the equipment idea. I think they could
Yeah.
definitely expand on it.
All right. Let's bring this to a close because I think we're just hitting 2 hours of podcast. It's way longer than we. But it was a great conversation. I hope nobody's bored. I hope you guys listen to the YouTube and the SoundCloud, recordings if you missed it. But anyways, time for closing course so we can go do something else. Probably not sleep, not have a life, but whatever we do. Starting with my guests, Stefan. Final words. Where can people find you on Twitter? Read your stuff. etc.?
I mean, my name is on the internet is Summerton, and I do work for Gosu, and that's basically it.
Okay, Christian.
I play a lot of Hearthstone, turns out. You can find me on Sir Christian on Twitter. I actually stream a whole lot on twitch.tv/Sir Christian. I'll link it in chat real quick. And yeah, I generally stream qualifiers, stuff like that, ladder, Heroes of the Storm sometimes even, so stuff like that.
You're just climbing now, right? You're
Climbing?
Climbing the ranks of leveling up because we are waiting for you to level up for Hero League so we can start playing.
Oh,
right,
snap.
yeah. I'm climbing in Heroes of the Storm. It's fun. I played a bunch of other MOBAs, so teammates are really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, but Heroes of the Storm is not like some of the other MOBAs.
No,
I play
we are not.
Where you only need one
Fuck
good
off.
player to carry.
Fuck off, we are
Yeah,
not.
no, but your mechanics carry over.
You
that's what
guys
I'm
are
talking
turning this
Yeah, they
into
do.
Heroes of the Storm chat. Shut up. Let's close it.
Oh, look, the chat just got more active.
Someday we'll do a Heroes of the Storm podcast that will just talk heroes. It will not be today. This day we fight. Anyways, Chiv.
Um,
Yeah. Go ahead. Don't derail. Oh, I kill you.
Okay, you can find me at the Shiv1 on Twitter. I've got the YouTube channel, the Shiv Gaming. You can go check that out. Also, I'm on Twitch as well. You could just pretty much type my name in Hearthstone and any Google, and you'll find 10,000 fucking things with me in it for some odd reason. I actually did this
So
recently.
you're like a famous guy
Holy-
or something. Right?
I know. I was shocked by this. Oh my god, I'm being translated in Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Vietnamese. What?
Oh, there's
Apparently, I got a following in Vietnam. I didn't even know.
Nice.
So yeah, you can check that out. Also, everybody, as soon as this podcast's over, go watch the Vulcan League. My boy Noxious is casting as per usual.
Right. It's probably
And-
over by now because it's
Oh, damn
11.
it.
'Cause it's 11 CET. But yeah, the Vulcan League. Check it out. It's not just because of Noxious. It's also a great league. Lots
Yeah,
of
two
Hearthstone content.
people
Nice.
I actually play